Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Business Breakthroughs. I'm delighted to be joined by Rebecca Mickler, who is the founder and principal designer of Mickler Co. Design Studio based in Wilmington, North Carolina. She owns a full-service interior design and home staging firm that she launched in 2013. So, 12 years in business as we're recording this. Congratulations. And she's transformed countless residential and short-term rental spaces into stylish, functional environments, and they reflect her clients' unique lifestyles, which is one of the things that really sets her and her firm apart, is this uniqueness and building something that is different from everything else that you see out there. And formerly known as a space to call home, her studio now offers a curated showroom, which is where we are doing our interview today. And it features luxury furniture, lighting, decor, some of which you can see behind her, along with services like 3D modeling, new construction, finished selections. And her design philosophy centers on creating homes that are inspiring and livable and ensuring each project is tailored to how her clients truly live. So, welcome, Rebecca. I'm so happy to have you with us today.
Thank you very much, Julie. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. So 13, or excuse me, I guess 12 years in business as we talk here today. So tell us a little bit about, you've been then through, or you've seen some different stages within economy and life, I suppose, and happening around us. So you've seen some things and you've been in business long enough to have had some ebbs and flows. So I would be curious, and I'm sure our listeners would be curious, what do you think has been true to your resiliency in business in that longevity?
Well, I think a passion for what you're doing is probably one of the most important things. I feel like I've been fortunate from an early age to know that some form of design was where I wanted to be. When I started my business, I worked from home, so that afforded me the opportunity to raise my kids, and um, I didn't have the overhead that someone with an office or a full staff did. So I was a solo entrepreneur for many years.
Yeah.
Um, and you know, that allowed me to kind of make mistakes and grow with what I would consider minimal impacts when things went wrong.
Mhm.
Um, had I started my business right out the gate with, lots of overhead and staff, I think it would have been probably a more difficult journey
Mhm.
to get me where I am now. So I'd say, being passionate about what I do, because it's something that I love. I don't feel like it's a job.
Mhm.
I wake up every day thinking about it and how I want to change things. And then also just, the flexibility of being able to work out of my house and still raise my family and that kind of stuff was allowed me to continue working when otherwise I might have had to stop.
Sure. Right. So the business has afforded you in these different stages of life where you can do something that you enjoy and earn an income and be able to help people and do something that you love. And so now you're in this beautiful showroom. So tell our listeners, what changed then, or was there a moment or a time where you went from, working from home and solopreneur to hiring your first junior designer and opening up this space?
Yeah, I would say absolutely. I started out working for myself, which was great. There was no one, there was no one to help me, but there's also no one to be responsible for. Um, and there's a local community college here that has an internship program, and at the end of the interior design program, the seniors have to intern with a local firm. So I've worked with several interns, and my first job hire was one of my interns. We just kind of clicked right away. And when she graduated, I didn't want her to leave and she didn't want to leave. So she's been with me since that point.
Mhm.
Um, as far as moving into the showroom, that really came down to I wanted a space to be able to present. One of my favorite things about my business is teaching other people and educating clients. And I had been traveling to country clubs and garden clubs and giving presentations about design trends and picking paint colors and how to, upgrade a house to get it ready for sale without spending a fortune.
Mhm.
And it was always at someone else's invitation. And I really wanted a space where I could do that myself and host them and schedule them, and the general public could just come in and take a class. And so we started looking for space. My husband and I went to market, I think in 2021, which was right after COVID, and it was a weird market, and everybody was still wearing masks.
Mhm.
Um, and he had mentioned, when we were there, how come we never see design styles like we have in our house? And I said, because no one in Wilmington sells them.
Yeah.
That particular style, just, we live on the coast of North Carolina, so it's very coastal, it's very beachy, it's very transitional in style, and that's not our style at all. So we kind of just at that point, he's like, maybe we should look at getting you a space.
Mhm.
Um, and we looked at the building that we're in now, and it was under contract by someone else, but it had a loading dock, which was incredible for
Your
my staging
station.
business.
Yeah.
Yep,
Mhm.
it had a warehouse in the back and kind of a showroom in the front, or at least it does now. Um, it had potential. And so we came and looked at the building, even though it was already under contract, and the real estate agent called me a week later and said, um, you know, that deal fell through. Are you guys interested in purchasing? So instead of renting or, renting a small office and upfitting it, we ended up just outright purchasing a commercial building,
Mhm.
and renovating the front half to be a showroom,
Yeah.
and the middle's got our offices in it, and then the back half is our warehouse for our staging inventory. So,
Mhm. Yep. Everything happens for a reason.
yep, yep. I feel like it came up, and I just was like,
Yeah.
it's a sign,
Yeah.
I mean, what are the odds that,
Mhm.
because I mean, my biggest thing, one of my biggest challenges working from home and staging was storing our inventory.
Sure. Where do
We
you
had,
keep
we had
everything? Yeah.
4 storage units full of inventory.
Yeah.
And it was, I think maybe $1,000 a month just to store
Mhm.
stuff. And I'm like, well, I should start looking for space at this point. Because I'm paying this out to a storage unit, and we couldn't accept deliveries. And so lots of things just kind of fell into place. And I feel like it was just meant to be.
Mhm.
So
Yep. So it's interesting because in your journey, right, you start out as the solopreneur and you're focused in design, and then you go to market and have this conversation with your husband and almost like not an epiphany, but just that's an idea,
maybe,
right?
yep.
And then something's presented to you and it's uh it's been an interesting transformation and these opportunities that have been presented and at particular times. So outside of that, in opportunities that are presented and that have morphed, right, as your business continues to grow, I would be curious, how do you determine, or what is your process to determine, is this the right opportunity? Is this the right time? And how do you move through that?
Um, I want to say it's very logical and structured, but I'm a gut person. I go with my gut, and I think once I had my husband's support, and we kind of gotten to a point where I had a couple of good years revenue wise, and I'd made some big sales, and we had some money saved, and it was kind of one of those things that he's, I feel like having the support of, your family or your spouse or whoever is your support system, and someone saying like, let's just go for this.
Yeah.
I felt like that was just my sign, and then the building came available, and so um, you know, I did some research on retail storefronts. I did lots of research on, cost of upfits, square footage, um, costs. And, for us to purchase a building was not a lot more than I would have been paying in a very small office just to rent it.
Mm-hmm.
So, we evaluated as much as we could in terms of location and what are we going to be doing here, and what do I need to make these numbers work? What do I need to be making? And but yeah, I wish I could say that I was more logical than I am, but I tend to just be like, I'm just gonna go for it. And Hope it works out. Is that a good answer? Is that encouraging
I
for
think
people? I have no
you're not
idea.
alone in that answer
Oh,
for sure.
I
But
mean, I feel
you
like
said, I mean, it's you're the visionary of the
I am.
organization. Yeah, you're a true
I'm a big picture
visionary,
person.
creative. Yes. At the same
I could,
time, it's gut and it's research, right? So you said you did do research and in the how and everything is figure outable, right? So you are
yeah,
still, as a visionary, you're still resourceful and
yep,
understand that, this is taking on risk. And so weighing the risk and looking at what is it, but I didn't hear in that explanation anything about taking a risk or what if it doesn't work? It's how do we make this work? How much money do I need to be bringing in? What do we need to do to be able to, improve the space and how we want it? So it was how do we make this work? And this is what this looks like. And I think that's in true entrepreneurial form, right? It's that persistence, it's the evaluation, but also it's not that it won't work, it's how do we make it work?
yeah, absolutely. Like we didn't, I mean, you never know. I mean, you hope and you project and all of those happy things, but
Yeah.
I think real estate wise, I have a pretty extensive real estate investment background, and I knew that commercial real estate was not something that was going to be commonly found. It was almost impossible to find something with a commercial loading dock.
Mm,
And so I feel like there were multiple exit strategies. If we get into the first year, 18 months, and we're not, we're not making what we need to be making to cover the bills kind of thing. I mean, there are so many options for this property anyway. I wasn't really worried about losing my butt in terms of, what we'd invested
yeah.
because I felt like we got it for a good price. We have equity in the building already.
Mhm,
If we needed to shut it down and move back into my home office 18 months later, I can rent the building out and more than cover the mortgage.
mhm,
So there was some security in that. Um, just in terms of, I know this is a good real estate investment, regardless of whether or not it is a good fit for my business in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years.
yeah.
Um, so that was slightly less scary. Um, Whereas, if you're renting, you don't build any equity. And if you spend all this money to upfit a space or, renovate an office and it tanks, you're just out that money.
Mhm,
So I'm a big advocate for purchasing real estate when possible. I do feel like it's afforded me some flexibility in terms of how I've structured my business and where I want things to go and, you know, what I want to do with this building and this space. And so I'd say, yeah, I tend to be more, if I want it, I'm going to figure out how to make it work
mhm,
versus I got to figure out how to make it work before I go for it,
mhm,
if that makes sense.
mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So can you share one of the strategies that you did share in growing your business was being invited to come and speak and talk
Yes.
about different design principles and teaching, you know, people like me about how you can be better, um, or, just go ahead and hire someone like you.
Right. Right.
So is there any specific marketing strategy? Is it going and speaking or your workshops? But what would you say would be a specific marketing strategy that you have used in your business to help it continue to grow and to be able to attract the right people?
So I would say that the workshop was really the driving force, that and the storage component of the back of our space for my staging inventory that really kind of propelled this idea that I want to grow. Um, what's wonderful and what I found about speaking and educating people, whether you're being hosted by someone or whether you're doing the hosting, is that it establishes a rapport and it establishes you as a design expert. And if you can give people a little bit of knowledge and a little bit of inspiration, they're much more likely to either say, yes, I can take these tools and tips and I can do this myself. Or at the end of the workshop, they're going to say, you know what? This is not my wheelhouse, and I'd love to hire you to do this for me.
Mhm,
And I'd say 50% of the time, and I think we tracked it for, maybe the first 2 years, 50% of our workshop attendees would at the very least book an in-home consultation.
mhm,
Um, my goal with the workshops is to be able to set up a lead generation system that I can sell to other designers. Maybe they host a room at a conference room in a hotel, but we can sell decor. We have lamps and decor and rugs and knickknacks and all that kind of stuff that people see and play with when they're here. But if you don't have your own space, that's okay too. But you know, people tend to get intimidated. And I don't know many people who are just going to walk into an interior design firm and say, hey, tell me how this works, and not feel intimidated or kind of just not know where even to start.
Yeah.
This really is an opportunity for people to meet us, to see what we can do, to see what we know, to learn to trust us. And suddenly they're a lot more comfortable asking for help. So I would say that was probably the number one driver for opening the store, and then also for getting people into the store. We are not in a shopping center. We're a standalone building. So I don't have the luxury or easability of, hey, I'm at the grocery store, let me run down the strip mall to such and such and see what they've got on sale. We're a destination, and so we had to make it a destination. And I think, even if they don't hire us right away, we've had people come back for 2, 3, or 4 workshops. We've had people refer their friends and book, ladies' nights. And so, we're planting that seed as an expert, regardless of whether or not they hire us that day. We're the first phone call that they're going to make when they're ready to do something fun with their space. So
great. And so what's next for Mickler Co?
What's next? Next for us, we've pivoted a little bit. I've gotten a little bit more away from just the idea that I want to be a straight retail storefront. I would really like to be able to showcase, maybe transition more to a true showroom where people are coming in to see things in person. There aren't any luxury design showrooms in Wilmington. Wilmington's not a huge city. So the opportunity to see and touch and feel higher end brands that are only accessible via, a trade professional is not here. So as our client roster grows, as our client, our project kind of scope increases and people are, finding us and wanting to do more extravagant and more exciting things, that's afforded us, because we have this space, the opportunity to open more stocking dealer accounts. And that means that we get better pricing as long as we have a certain number of items to display on that vendors, on our showroom floor. People come looking for certain vendors and they'll come to our store just because we have this in stock and they can see it in stock, and they, so versus being open, 7 days a week to sell to people, it may be something that we transition more towards. We're by appointment. You can always come in and purchase. We have the workshops here. You can always come in and purchase, but it's also an opportunity for people to kind of really see what's out there. So I would like more luxury clients, more, and when I say luxury, I mean clients who want to have some fun with design, not just, I want a great looking living room, but I want something on the cover of a magazine. I mean, that's really our goal, is to grow. I'd like to be doing whole home projects, and I'd like to hire eventually another designer. I'd like to be able to get to a point where, I've got several designers on staff who are taking on single room and multi-room projects. And then I just get to pick, and I'm going to be super selfish here and say, I just get to pick and choose the projects I want to work on. And then we assign the others to other designers. I want to have the best design firm. And by best, I mean the most incredible designs. I don't want to crank out mediocrity. I don't want to, I want amazing. I want, fully functional, well-planned, beautiful spaces, breathtaking spaces. So
Which is
my
what
goal is
you create already, right? But it sounds like on a
Yes,
larger scale
yes,
to be able to
on a
impact
larger scale
more
where it's,
people and
yes,
bring more to their lives and their homes and their workspaces, which
yes,
is really powerful.
yes. I want high quality design, and I want something that every single time I see it, I know that's their work, whether like regardless of style.
Hmm.
Um, we're really well known for our beds.
Hmm.
Krista does an amazing job styling beds. And
Hmm.
so people will say, that's my favorite thing to see is just how you're going to do my bed. Or I make my bed every day because
That's
it looks
great.
so pretty. Isn't that crazy?
Oh, I
But
get
because
it.
we
Yeah.
stage so much, like it's, we're constantly showing bedrooms when we're staging. And we're really good at mixing color and texture and fabrics and patterns. And I don't really let anything out the door unless I'm proud of it and I feel like, I want that out there in the world for people to see, and I want, them to know that it's well thought out. And we design whole rooms. We don't do just furniture. So we come in and we style at the end, which I tell people is the icing, or it's like the icing on a wedding cake. You've got a good foundation, you got a tasty cake there, but what people are really paying for is the icing, it's the
Hmm.
styling,
Yeah.
it's the decor, it's the lamps, it's the rugs, it's the pillows. So we fully finish a room when we design it. That's how we pitch to our clients. We've also started in the last year. Um, we don't give individual prices on things now. We establish a budget at the beginning of the project, and we will say your living room is $25,000, and here are all the things that we want to put in it, but we don't tell clients individual prices because clients tend to kind of overthink and get in their own way.
Mm.
Um, and oh my God, I would never spend that on a rug, or oh my God, I'd never spend that on a lamp or a pillow. Um, and it's very similar to going to a restaurant. You don't break down the ingredients in a restaurant like, oh, leave off the what are those fancy mushrooms called?
Oh, no.
You know what I'm talking about, like the
Oh, cremini? No, not a cremini.
no, what's the really fancy ones? The truffles.
Oh, yes.
If
Mhm.
you knew how much truffles cost, you'd be like, pass on that. I don't need that on my dish. But
Yeah.
they're amazing.
I'll get the regular fries, not the truffle fries.
That's
Yes.
right, right. Just because if you knew how much, like, and how little it was in comparison to the rest of the meal, but
Hmm.
that's what made the meal so expensive, right?
Hmm.
Caviar, same thing, but that's what makes the meal. And so we have kind of taken that, what I consider a roadblock for clients, away from them. We tell them that at the beginning of the project, but we say, because we want you to view this as a whole design, as a meal and not as individual ingredients, unless you ask, we're not going to tell you how much this stuff costs.
Hmm.
As long as we're
Well,
within
letting
budget.
you be the experts, right? Having the
Right,
budget so that
right,
then you can also have creative freedom
right.
and bring the space that they want to life
And they're not
without them having to
overthinking.
worry about each the nit like let you
That's
worry about the nitty gritty. How can, if a realtor or someone is looking to stage their property to help it sell, if someone is looking to remodel, build, redesign their home, how can people get in touch with you?
People can contact us via our website.
Mhm.
We have multiple avenues of contact. You can just reach right out on the contact form. You can sign up for one of our newsletters. We have a staging newsletter, a design newsletter. We have a really fun interior design quiz. You can
Mhm.
help you find your interior design style, and that
It
will
is
get you on
fun.
our
I can
newsletter
attest to
list.
that.
Um, or they can just come into the showroom and stop by and say, hey, I'm thinking about redoing our kitchen. And, that's really where we start. It's just kind of a discovery call is the first thing that we do. We book a call just to say, like, tell us about your project. What are you thinking you want to do? And we'll kind of discuss how we work
Mhm.
and what their timeline is and what their investment level is and where they want to be in terms of and if it's a good fit for us and a good fit for them, then we come out, take a look at the property. For staging, it's a little bit different. They can call, we'll give them an estimate over the phone if they're in a hurry. Usually agents are in a hurry. But the goal with our staging business, I really want to be a boutique staging firm where we're just working with a handful of agents that we consistently work with all year.
Mhm.
Um, it works a lot better when an agent finally realizes that staging is the single most effective part of their marketing strategy, because then they come back and each property that they're showing and each property they're showcasing and that they're using to show potential sellers looks amazing, sells quickly, sells for over asking, blah, blah, blah. Um, it,
Right.
once they figure that out, they ended up with an incredible portfolio of work. They end up with incredible stats. Our houses sell in 14 days or less. This is our
Yep.
proven marketing strategy. So my goal is to be a boutique staging company. I'd like to just work with a handful of realtors that consistently stage their properties. But
Okay.
you can always just call or email. So
Okay. Great. Well, thank you for your time and thank you for
yeah,
sharing your nuggets of wisdom and your passion for what you do. And we'll look forward to seeing you again soon. And
great.
thank you everybody for listening in. Be sure and drop your top blinding flash of the obvious, your top BFO in the comments, and we'll see you next time.